Jimmy McGill is a puzzle in this episode. He does a brilliant pitch to Neff.
I can tell you this, none of them will have the connection to your machines that I do. None.
And he gets the job, and yet there's something that's bothering him. I find this question of what's really going on with Jimmy fascinating.
You guys are like a couple of cats. Like, come and wave a shiny object around you like, I want that.
Hey guys, Kiwi here. In this video, I'll be breaking down Jimmy going in for his job interview during Season 4, Episode 2 of Better Call Saul, along with explaining the true reason as to why he didn't take the job that was offered to him. With that being said, major warning of spoilers for everything in the show up to Episode 402, and let's jump right into this. So, with Jimmy doing anything he can to take his mind off of Chuck, he's decided to grind his ass off and look for a new job to occupy his time for the next year, gainful employment as he would call it, but when he's given a prime opportunity for something he was just working so hard to try and convince them to give him, he turns it down due to the owners coming across as complete suckers. So, when Jimmy initially goes to leave the photocopy store after his interview, he assumes that he might not get a call back, so he wanted to turn around and make one final pitch to try and convince them that he is indeed the correct pick for them. As he even told them in his original interview, although he was a lawyer, every moment of his job has been spent trying to sell something to someone, and Jimmy proves that here by literally trying to sell himself with quite the energetic and confident pitch. And as a side note, it seems as though this second pitch of him when he walks back in was really slipping Jimmy, or rather Saul, talking through him even if he didn't realize it at the time. So as Jimmy stands there waiting for them to finalize their decision, you can tell that he probably feels like he just nailed that interview. But when the owners walk up to him next and tell him that he has the job, obviously fully eating up everything he just said to them, something triggers in Jimmy's head that makes him feel like the situation isn't right. So in a surprising turn of events, Jimmy decides to do a complete 180 and not take the job. You could notice the moment that he seemed unsure of the situation, it was right after his spiel when they finally offered him the job, or right when they walked up to shake his hand. When they finally offered him the job, it seemed like he was just as surprised as he was unsure, although it took him a moment to come right out and say what he was thinking. When the two owners discuss getting all his paperwork set up, he just can't seem to get over the fact that his little song and dance worked. Now, during the behind the scenes video for episode 402, Bob Odenkirk, the actor who plays Jimmy, actually brought up this situation along with explaining the true reason behind what caused Jimmy to do such a 180. I love that they seem to be continuing these behind the scene videos, as it seems to be the new format that they're doing for every episode of Better Call Saul along with Lodge 49. Anyways, take a look at what exactly Mr. Odenkirk says, as he describes the situation quite well in my opinion.
More than anything, those two salesman guys remind him of his dad, who just bought everyone's bull. And that is something he despises in other people.
So you're not taking the job?
No, I'm not taking the job. Suckers. I feel sorry for you.
This situation no doubt reminded Jimmy of his father's store from way back when he was a kid, along with all the times that he saw a con man walk in and take advantage of his honest, polite, and gullible dad. A con man once told him about being a wolf or a sheep, and that saying can really be applied to this situation, along with many other situations in this show in general now that I think about it, but we can compare Jimmy to the wolf, along with the photocopy store owners as sheep. Now, it's not like Jimmy necessarily had negative intentions to con them, as he was just trying to sell himself, but these store owners totally are people that Slip and Jimmy could con if he tried. Jimmy never went in with this intention, but when the owners offered him the job, he realized that he just bypassed the entire process with his fancy words. Now, yes, Jimmy was telling the truth about himself, as he really was just trying to sell himself for the job position, as I just said, but even then, he was still persuasive enough for them to hire him on the spot, and it's not like they even knew if he was telling the truth or not. They just totally fell for it. For all they knew, he could be some idiot who just tricked them into giving him a job opportunity by flailing his arms around while talking big. So not only does Jimmy acquire a distaste for them, considering that they remind him of his father, or rather his family situation in general, the one thing that he's trying to currently ignore, he probably wouldn't want to be working for a boss who has the same gullible characteristic as his father anyways. Jimmy literally calls them a couple of cats following around a shiny object, and then as he walks out, he tells them them that he feels sorry for them, obviously in the same tone that he feels towards his father. Now, considering the events with his father, it makes sense that it would cause Jimmy to feel this way about people with that same character trait, and it's almost like these are all stepping stones showing how Jimmy's mentally evolving into believing that he shouldn't waste time with people like that who are equivalent to sheep, as they may be as hopeless as his father was. So really, again, it's just the store owners having the same character traits as his father that really disgusted Jimmy in this situation. It would take an entirely separate video to really discuss all the flashbacks with Jimmy and his father at the store, along with the whole message that you're really supposed to take away from it, but the short version is that Jimmy was taught that he'd rather be a wolf over a sheep, as he couldn't stand to see his father getting played for a sucker over and over again. That's kind of what created Slip in Jimmy, especially since Jimmy could see right through all the con men the entire time. Jimmy's father worked a lot of hours for nothing, at least in Jimmy's eyes, and I discussed a lot of this last year when we got more of a perspective in episode 307 during that flashback when Marco and Jimmy went into the store, which was now all run down and abandoned, but again, that's another video for another time. But anyways, back to the core reason why Jimmy turned down this job offer. Considering how many times he probably saw his father get conned with a similar situation, it's no surprise that he would compare himself to that and therefore lose respect for the suckers that he's comparing to his father. If Jimmy could win these guys over with such a simple show and dance, they obviously aren't the type of people that Jimmy wants to work for. He stood by alongside his father and watched that whole situation unfold, and he doesn't want to see it happen again here or even be reminded of a similar situation. Something else that could bother Jimmy is the fact that his words got him further than his honest efforts did. When Jimmy first walked in there, he tried doing everything the straight and honest way. He was polite and attentive to the owners of the store and what they were saying and all the knickknacks that they have and all the awards, and he answered the questions to the best of his ability. Aside from dodging that one question pretty well about why he wasn't a lawyer anymore, Jimmy tried his hardest to do an honest job, but as he walked out, he realized that it wasn't enough. So Jimmy walks back in with that full intention to do and say whatever he can to convince them to hire him, and as I said, as he does this, it works surprisingly well, even catching Jimmy off guard. Although the main reason for him turning down the job definitely has to do with them reminding him of his father, he was also probably a little disheartened by the fact that throwing around a few words got him further than any amount of honest work could. Jimmy wanted to do things legitimately, not by using his words to get what he wants. Jimmy probably hates how Chuck was right in saying that he'd have more success as a con man than as an honest, hardworking fellow. Jimmy is trying very hard to obtain a regular job, but will he really settle with working his ass off for a year just doing something like that, especially after he worked so long in the mailroom, and also considering that he could make so much more money doing things that Slip and Jimmy would do. I feel like Jimmy will want to eventually take the easy route and do Slip and Jimmy cons on the side in order to make the big bucks instead of scraping together an honest living. So with that being said, will he eventually find a temporary job, or will he just give up the job search entirely, maybe even eventually lying to Kim about it? Just take a look at this comment that was left on one of my trailer breakdowns. The commenter starts off by saying, "I think Jimmy is lying to Kim about looking for a job. He is going to go out and start hustling, becoming Saul. He knows that he isn't going to go work some 9-to-5 job for a year. He wants to make a lot of money the easier way, and that is through becoming more like Saul." He says more here involving Howard and Chuck, but let's focus on this beginning part here, as it's a very valid possibility. Although Jimmy is trying to work his ass off to find a job, will he stick with it once he's found something, or will he abandon it for something less legal but with a far higher reward? Jimmy is only truly trying to find a job as an excuse to not sit around and mope about Chuck or even so much as think about him, so will Jimmy knock it off once he finally decides to process Chuck's death? Feel free to leave any of your own theories and predictions in the comments below, but that's pretty much it for the video, guys. I'd appreciate a like on the video if you've enjoyed anything I've said today, as it really helps me out more than you can imagine. Feel free to subscribe for more Better Call Saul and Breaking Bad content in the near future, and if you'd like to take that extra step in helping support my videos, consider checking out my Patreon as well. Also, feel free to follow me on Twitter too, link to both of those in the description. I'm fairly active on Twitter even when I'm not posting videos, and I'm always retweeting everything I can involving both the Better Call Saul and Walking Dead universe. But anyways, guys, as always, I thank you all so much for watching, and until next time, I'll talk to you guys later. Peace out!